I really hope our guests today bring their amazing idea over here to the US from England because dang. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another international episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less than traditional. We got a special episode today. Basically, a few weeks ago, I was contacted by 3 students from the Royal College of Art in London, England, and they're actually working on a pretty sweet project at their university that involves single parents and just some great ideas that they have to help improve single parents' lives. And so they reached out and they said, "Hey, Anthony, we'd love to sit down and first just pick your brain about what it's like to be a single parent. It really would help us with the project that we're working on to get some insight, to ask you some questions, to learn more about the inner workings of being an SP. And on top of that, they said, it'd really be cool to share with you the project that we're working on, share with you some of our ideas, have you give us some feedback, and see if you actually think our idea is legit." And me being me, I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds amazing. I'm not sure how you found this podcast all the way across the pond, but I'm glad that you did. I would love to sit down and talk with you, love to answer your questions, and I think it's going to be a good time. And so we sat down and we had the interview, and I was right. It was a good time. So big shout out and thank you to my new friends, Rachel, Dori, and Liliam, again, from the Royal College of Art in London. I had a great time talking with you all. It was a fantastic hour. And so basically what I did is I just asked them permission to record that interview, record those conversations, and share it with you all as a podcast episode. And them being the gracious people that they are, they said yes. And so what you're about to see is that conversation, is that interview. So we're going to get ready to transition over to that. But a few things I'd like to ask you to do before we do so. First things first is maybe consider sharing the podcast with a friend, with a family member, with somebody overseas that you know, maybe in Europe, Asia, Africa, anywhere really. Single parents, I'm sure, are all over the globe, and I'm sure they could benefit from listening to and being a part of a community like this. So spread that word. Next thing I'd ask you to do is maybe consider subscribing to the podcast, turning on notifications, all the things, so you never miss an episode in the future. And then lastly, if you feel so inclined to do so, maybe consider rating the podcast 5 stars, highest rating possible on your favorite platform. That way we can tell those algorithms out there that the show is legit, and it'll pass it along to more people. All right, let's go hang out with our new pals. This episode is brought to you by me at Anthony Crosby Talent Acquisition and Development. Single parents, are you looking to take control of your career and financial future? Well, my finance firm is currently recruiting new agents with a business model similar to real estate. Here's how it works. Let me break it down. First, we'll get you connected with our brokerage, and then we'll help you get fully licensed to work in the financial industry. We fully train you to go out and help clients reach their financial goals and dreams. And something pretty awesome is that no past experience in this industry is required. We're just looking for people who are ready to make an amazing change right now, because I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of people out there who are a little anxious when it comes to money and the economy and tariffs and 401ks and retirement. And we just, as a firm, we're growing, we're expanding at a crazy rate because there's so many people out there who legit just need some good people to help them. And maybe one of those good people could be you. Reach out and let me know if you might be interested in learning more. I'd love to sit down and talk with you to see if this might be a good fit for you and your family. Yes, that's Anthony Crosby Talent Acquisition and Development, where change starts now.
So first question will be, can you share your journey about how you become single dad?
Yeah, so I was married early, that would have been early 2020s, I guess. No, actually, that would be the early 2011s, I'd say. But basically, I got married when I was about 24, 25 years old. And my girls' mom and I were married for about 4 years. And
Mm.
uh, long story short, like we have a great relationship. We work together really well. We're super great friends. But I think ultimately we just realized that us being together as a married couple just probably wasn't going to work long term because we just function better as friends than we were like romantic partners. And
Mm.
so back in, I think it was like 2016, 2017, we began the process of separation. And my daughters, who are now 8 and 9 years old, were super, super young. Like, I guess I could do the math, but they were like around 1 years old at the time. So I literally went from being in like a traditional house with a white picket fence and all of that stuff, married, having a dog and all that, to now living in a little apartment with two little babies that I just had to figure out how to provide for. So at the beginning, it was rough, obviously, for a lot of the obvious reasons, but it
Sure.
was a time where I just had to almost like rediscover myself because I think a lot of
Mm.
the years leading up to our separation and divorce was me just trying to figure out a lot of like external stuff with the marriage and a job I was working at the time, and then became a dad pretty quickly, and then had another kid right after my first kid pretty quickly. So I just had all these life events going at me for several years to where when everything kind of culminated to me living by myself with two little
Mm.
babies, like I had time to slow down and to figure out who I was and who I wanted to be. And so I'm
Mm.
honestly very thankful for that time because it really did allow me to not have to really worry about anybody else except for me and my kids for a while. And I think I was able to, like I said, learn a lot about who I am in a way that I don't think I would have been able to explore in any other type of situation.
Mm. Yeah. Can I ask how is the co parenting works? Do
Yeah.
you and your ex-wife like take care of the child together after divorce?
Yeah, so we do like week on, week off shared custody. So
Mm.
we do like Sunday to Sunday. So right now, uh, this current day, they are with their mom because this is her week, and then tomorrow I will
Mm.
get them tomorrow evening, and then I'll have them for a week. And then for holidays, it just in our divorce agreement, we just kind of split holidays that rotate depending on the year. So, for example, say like Christmas, one year she'll have them for Christmas, one year I will, and then it'll switch
Mm.
off depending on like Thanksgiving, 4th of July. It just kind of rotates. And then we always have them on our birthday. So, if it's our birthday, we can have them regardless of whose week it is. And Mother's Day and Father's Day. So, regardless of whose week it is, I'll always get them on Father's Day, and then she'll always have them on Mother's Day.
Mm. Mm. Okay, got it.
I have
Well,
another question. Yeah, so for legally, how did you allocate your like child custody, or you share the child custody with your
Mhm.
ex-partner?
So legally, we honestly, when we first realized that we were gonna like split, get separated, eventually get divorced, we just between ourselves realized that we didn't want to spend a whole lot of time caught up with lawyers and legal stuff, and we didn't want to pay for all that. And we just, like I said, when we had come to the conclusion that hey, like I think this is coming to an end, we weren't like hateful or angry or like toxic or anything like that. We just kind of knew. So we just together decided like, hey, like instead of going through the courts and doing all this stuff, like let's just sit down together and kind of draw out what we think might work. So we found like a local like paralegal who helped draft
mm.
up all of the specifics in the agreement, and then we kind of agreed like okay, I think this is fair, this looks good, and then we just submitted it to the county and filed. So the whole process only took a few months just because we chose not to like go get lawyers and stuff like that super involved.
Mm.
Mm, I see.
Mm. So, can I ask what are the biggest challenges you face as a single parents?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I think for me, the biggest challenge that I've had to face was learning how to really just prioritize myself. Because when you're
Mm,
a single parent, especially when you have younger kids, like maybe as my kids get older and they're teenagers and stuff like that, this might change. But as I
yeah.
mentioned, I became a single dad when they were babies essentially. So for the
Mm,
last about 7 or 8 years, every single day I've had to just do everything when it comes to raising them. So that includes the cleaning
mm,
and grocery shopping. And then now they're getting older, they have homework, and then they do activities like gymnastics and things like that. And then when they're at their mom's house, I'm spending time like working and prepping for them to come back to my house so that way I can just be solely like focused on them. So I'm always constantly thinking about them no matter what I'm doing. And so
mm,
it can be very
mm,
easy to like make that your whole identity and make that like
mm,
all that you are. Like, hey, I'm just a single dad and I'm just a dad in general. And so like my whole day, because you're not splitting the responsibilities with anybody else, you're just so caught up in everything that you have to do. And so a
mm,
challenge for me is like slowing down and remembering like, hey, like I'm single dad, yes, that describes me, but I'm more than that. There's things that I can do for myself. There's things that I can do just for fun. It's okay
mm,
to take a break and maybe watch TV or read a book or something like that. But that sounds a lot easier than it actually is to live out because, like I said, there's always something to do. There's always laundry to put away. There's always
mm,
emails to send to your kids' teachers. There's always stuff to clean. There's always more work you could be doing, especially
mm,
when you're the only income provider for your house. You have to sometimes work extra because, again, you're not sharing those financial responsibilities with anybody else. So you kind of have to sometimes work nonstop just to pay the bills.
mm,
So just reminding
mm.
myself, like when I do have some downtime, it's okay to take that time for myself and not feel guilty about that or not
Yeah.
feel like I'm not doing enough.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's a really, really tough journey.
Yeah.
And how do you find the balance between work and parenting? Is that hard?
It is hard because a lot of the stuff that I do now for work involves me like doing stuff like this, like being on a computer or being in meetings with people or just having to have my attention um, fully engaging with somebody else. And there'll be times where I try to have a lot of those things on my schedule happen when my kids are at school or
Mm,
when they're at their mom's house. But there is times where, since I am doing a lot of meetings with people, they can only
mm,
meet during times when I do have my girls.
mm,
Especially during the summertime when they're out of school and
mm,
I work from home. I work remotely at my house, and so during the summertime they're always here, and so it can be tricky when, like, for example, I had this happen a couple of weekends ago. I had a meeting with a guy, and he can only meet on like a Saturday night. A Saturday night, I
mm.
had the girls. And so I had to bring them with me to this guy's house so we could have this meeting. And thankfully, it
God.
was like somebody they know is like one of my friends, so it wasn't like weird. Like
Mm,
they were fine hanging out, but they
yeah.
were like saying like how bored they were. And later, when I asked them about their week, I was like, "Well, what was your favorite part of the week?" And they're like, "Well, I had a good week, except I didn't like when we went to Daniel's house because that was not fun. That you had to have the meetings." And then I felt guilty. I was like, "Oh man, like it stinks that I had to work while I had them." But like you have to do that sometimes because you gotta pay the
Yeah.
bills, and so it's hard because my kids being young, they don't fully
Mm,
understand that, like, hey, if I don't take this meeting, then we can't go pay to go do the fun stuff and stuff like that. So I try as hard
mm,
as I can to balance my schedule so that I don't have to do those type of things very often when I have them. But sometimes there are times when I have to do that. And when I do, I try to just,
mm,
in a way that they understand, let them know, like, hey, like, I know being here for an hour or me being on the computer for an hour is not the most fun, but this is just what we have to do in order to go do some of the stuff that you want to do, and just help them understand as much as I can and help them bring them in instead of being like, well, I have to go do this, like just get out and shut the door or stuff like that. I just try to have conversations with them to at least help them understand why I have to work sometimes.
I have some question.
Yeah.
Is it easy to find a babysitter temporary?
For me, it's been tough, to be honest. It's been tough over the years because I don't really know why it's been tough, because I know a good amount of people in my community. I have a lot of good friends and good connections, but I think, to be honest, I guess I do know why. I struggle with guilt in that department sometimes.
Okay.
So I know, given the choice, that if my kids would rather do something with me versus go to a sitter, obviously I'm sure this is how it is for most parents, like they're gonna prefer to be with me all the time. And so when I do have to find a sitter or do something, honestly, it's usually when I do need a sitter, it's when I want to go do something for myself, like go to a birthday party or go to a dinner with friends or something like that, that has to happen or is scheduled to happen during a time when I have my kids. And so for me to go to a friend's birthday, I have to find a babysitter. But that's where that guilt comes in. Is like, oh, well, see, this isn't a work thing. This isn't something I have to go do. This is something I would like to do. But for me to do this, I'd have to get a sitter. So it all goes back to that whole like taking care of yourself thing earlier, of like, okay, how do I balance having a social life and doing stuff for myself and keeping my friendships versus just always having to say, hey, I can't do that because I have my kids. And so that, I think that's why it's been tough for me to find consistent ones, just because like I've struggled a lot with guilt taking them to a sitter. But thankfully, as they're getting older now, I do have some friends who know like teenagers and stuff like that, to where now that they're like heading into that teenager season of their life, they like hanging out with teenagers because they think they're fun and cool, and watch TikTok videos with them and stuff like that. So it gets a little bit better. But to be honest, like that's something I've struggled with for a while, is the guilt of finding babysitters.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm. Well, okay. Mm. There's another question. Is like, do you think the support from government and society is enough for single parents family now?
Ooh, that's a good question. No, I don't think so. I think that
Mm-hmm.
we could be doing a lot more to support single parent families, because just through the fact that if you, I was just thinking about this recently, especially financially. So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to just being able to pay your bills or just to make it through life, to keep a roof over your head, when you are the sole income earner for your house, you're not sharing that with anybody else. You have to, as I said earlier, sometimes work two, maybe even three jobs to make ends meet. And when you do that, you are obviously trading off the time that you need to work versus time with your kids. And so this is not even talking about having a social life anymore. This is saying like, hey, every time I choose to go to work, or actually every time I choose to go to my kids' gymnastics meet or their softball game or to their school event, I am almost sacrificing making money in that time because I'm choosing to doing something else versus working. And that mentality is rough and it's very defeating, because I don't think you should ever feel bad or conflicted and have to make the decision, should I go be present in my kids' life or should I work? And if I choose to be present in my kids' life, then financially we're going to maybe suffer and it's going to hurt. And so I think that when it comes to the support that single parents get, I don't think it's taking in to the account that our time is still as valuable as anybody else's. We'd still love to be with our kids, and but for us to not even go out and do glamorous stuff, but for us to make it and pay our bills, it requires a lot of sacrifice. And so to have more support and understanding for that would be would be wonderful, because I know there's a lot of stereotypes with single parents, that sometimes they could be lazy, or sometimes they could be selfish,
Yeah.
or when they do get financial assistance, they're spending it on getting their hair done and nails done, and just dumb stuff. And I'm sure there's people who do that, but for the most part, all the single parents I know, they're just working the best and doing the best that they can, and they would love extra support.
Mm.
Mm, yeah. Okay. Thanks. Okay. So we have some like list about the challenging we found out under like research.
Yeah.
There's like childcare,
Hmm.
financial strength,
Yep.
co-parenting, and children's voice. Do you think which one is the like most priority things to you?
Let's see. So financial, I would say probably. Honestly, it'd probably be the financial one. Yeah, because I think that
Okay.
for me, like I said, it all just boils down to the conflict of having to choose between having a life basically and just being able to
Yeah.
provide. And so like with everything nowadays, with inflation and getting more expensive, like it's just becoming harder
Mhm.
and harder to truly. So I have this thing where I've been saying lately, I've been really trying to encourage single parents to find ways to thrive instead of just survive,
Mm,
because I think a lot of us
yeah.
single parents, we're just in survival mode. So we're just doing what we
Yeah.
can, just trying to make it one more week or one more day until till payday.
Mhm.
And I think that trickles down, because that type of stress trickles down into sometimes how we engage with our kids. Because if we're going to bed stressed,
Mhm.
wondering how we're going to pay for groceries tomorrow, then when our kids need us, or that need that extra attention, or just energy wise, we're just not truly able to often pour out in a healthy way. And even to ourselves,
Mm,
to care for ourselves in a healthy way, because
mhm.
it's hard for us to slow down and to exhale and to take a breath and just be like, okay, I can just take that 10 minutes to read a book or to do something for myself, because we're always in the
Mhm.
survival mode of like, okay, cool, I paid this bill. Now I got to figure out how I'm going to pay this bill. Or I
Mhm.
shoot, my kid had an emergency, and so now this money I was saving to pay this bill, I need to pay for a doctor's appointment, or I need to pay for a new pair of shoes,
Mhm.
or something happening at school that I didn't plan for. And so I think that financial aspect, yes, on paper, it's more than just like paying the bills. Like it trickles down into a lot of other areas of life that can be challenging.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to like not only worry about this moment
Yeah.
and also the future. Every bill you have to like
Yep.
pay everything. That's
Yes.
really tough.
It gets tricky. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So check the question. Mm, okay. Um. Does oh sorry. Okay. Is there anything? Oh sorry. Let me check again.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay. Hmm.
Actually, I have another question
Okay.
because yes, because you just mentioned sometimes you feel guilty
Yeah.
because it's hard to balance when you want to take care of your child or in work. It's hard to choose which one is the best option for you when the moment. And I also want to know what kind of help, and do you think it can help you feel less guilty?
Ooh, I love that question, because
Mm,
I've been realizing for myself, I guess I'll speak for myself and kind of expand on that, that there's times where I do feel guilty about the fact that, oh my gosh, like I need to get some more money so that way this weekend with the girls, I can go take them out and I can do all this cool fun stuff, and we can go spend all this money at the stores and at the arcade and at the movies and stuff like that. And
mm,
I've had people tell me, even my kids' mom tell me, actually, she's probably the one who tells me this the most, tells me that, hey,
mm,
you know what? Like, our kids, your kids, at the end of the day, they don't need all this big, extravagant stuff for them to know that you love them. Because in my head, sometimes I feel guilty that I can't always run out and buy them whatever they ask for, or we can't afford to go on to Disneyland or all these big trips and stuff like that. So that guilt will just be like, well, I can't go do that. But like I said, this weekend I'll take them and do all this stuff and take them shopping for all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I've had people tell me like, no, like you don't have to do that. Like my kids, they're happy going to the park and playing and swinging and eating $3 snow cones and stuff like that. I could take them to do that and they would be as happy as can be. But my guilt, I think that's not enough, or I'm not doing enough, or I'm failing as a parent because I can't afford to go do all this big extravagant stuff. And I've really had to work on that. And I've had to work on sometimes telling them, hey, like I would love to take you to go buy that thing or take you on this trip or all these other things, but we just can't afford that right now. And that guilt hits, but then they're usually the ones who are like, okay, I understand. Like, can we go do that? Like, can we go to the park instead? Or can we go play a board game instead? Or can you watch us do these dances instead? They're cool with that, but it's just my own sense of guilt that I have to work through. So sometimes, yes, there's a lot of practical stuff with life that's stressful because you just got to make stuff work. But sometimes I put a lot of that guilt and stress on myself because I think I'm not good enough. Just being simple sometimes. And so to the second part of your question, I think a good support for me that I found is just being reminded, maybe reminding single parents that like, you know what, at the end of the day, when your kids are older and they're grown and they look back at memories, they're not going to always remember how much money you spent or all these toys you bought them and stuff like that. They're going to remember the times where you took them to the park or read a book with them or sat down and played a game with them. Like those are the real memories, and you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to make those memories. And you are succeeding as a parent, even if you can't take your kids to Disneyland every summer, like you see some parents doing. You are still succeeding as your parent as long as your kids feel loved and happy and secure and all these things. And so that's something personally I've had to work through a lot.
Did you know that at Anthony Crosby Talent Acquisition and Development, not only are we recruiting the next top talent in the financial service industry to come in, get licensed and trained to help a lot of people and make a pretty good living doing it, we also connect individuals and families with licensed financial strategists who love nothing more than sitting down with people and helping them accomplish and succeed in their financial goals and dreams. Thinking about retirement? Do you think it's possible you could leave generational wealth to your children? Speaking of your children, do you know if they're properly protected if something unfortunate were to happen to you? Single parents out there, where are your kids gonna go? Who are they gonna be placed with if something dire does come your way? We sit down, we help break it all down, we come up with solutions that are best for you and your family. And the amazing part about this whole thing, our appointments are 100% free. Yep, all you gotta do is get in touch with us and we'll put you in contact with the financial strategist who will make sure that everything is properly planned out for your financial future for free. We also have an amazing referral program for professionals and business owners who might be looking to add an additional revenue stream to their portfolio. Yes, we're talking about real estate agents, mortgage brokers, property managers, CPAs, and tax professionals. This might be an easy way for you to add additional revenue to your business model. Reach out to us one more time. That's Anthony Crosby Talent Acquisition and Development, where change starts now.
Have you ever find some help like psychotherapy to help you?
I have initially when I first went through my divorce, I did. I went to a lot of counseling, a lot of therapy, but a lot of it was not even just for parenting. A lot of it was just, as I mentioned from the beginning, just for myself, because I had to really do some work to figure out who I am and how to be comfortable with who I am. And I think that's why I'm so comfortable and okay with talking about being a single parent and being a parent in general, or just being myself and having these conversations with people, because I had to do a lot of work in therapy to figure out, like, okay, who is Anthony? What is he like? What is he not like? What is he just by himself? Because it could be very easy to define who you are based on your relationships or what other people have to say about you, or even like society. Because like the society and culture will tell you, like, oh, well, I've heard this a lot about single parents. Like, oh, well, you know, you're not whole, you're not complete until maybe one day where when you get remarried or you find your person again, and or you do start making this amount of money again, and all these different things, or your kids come from a broken home just because you're a single parent. And so there's all these external pressures coming in as well, saying like, hey, you're a single parent now, but there's something wrong with you. You need to change that. You need to get married again, or you need to figure all this stuff out in order to be whole or to have value again. And so a lot of my therapy work showed me that, no, like, I don't have to be at a certain position in life, or I don't have to be married, or I don't have to have this status in order for me to be whole or to have value. Like, I can just have value for myself. And so I really appreciated doing it. That wasn't easy. It took a lot of work to reprogram my brain, because, like I said, other people and culture and stuff like that, they're saying the opposite stuff sometimes. So, but I was thankful I did that work.
Yeah, sounds great.
I'm curious about, do you find is that hard to educate your daughters that what is relationship between dad and mom, what is like divorce mean to them? Do they know what's going on with you and your ex-wife?
They do. I think as they get older, they're starting to ask more questions. So I got to give credit to their mom. Their mom is very big on like saving like old pictures and stuff like that from when we were together, because she's always said, like, even though we split when they were like super young and they're probably not going to remember the time when we were together, I want them to grow up and still see these pictures and see these memories, so they know like they didn't come from brokenness, or they didn't come as accidents, or they did come from a place of love and two parents who love and cherish them and all these things. But as they see those pictures, as they pull them out from under the bed or in the closet and start looking through them, and they'll see like our wedding pictures and things like that, they will start to ask more questions. And we just explain to them, kind of just as I said, like, we're very good at just being honest and not tiptoeing around it, and just being like, yeah, mom and dad were together. We just realized that we just worked better together as friends, and we still love you guys, and we still support each other. And I think a big part of it is like, they'll have those questions, but they're easy to accept it because they see the relationship between me and her as a healthy one and a positive one and a supporting one. So I just remember early on when we first had split, I just remember having conversations with some of my guy friends who were also recently divorced. And I would listen to how they would talk about their kids' mom or their ex-wife, and they would say some pretty nasty things and call them all these names. And even sometimes while their kids were around that they could hear, they would say some horrible things about the other parent. And so like, I just remember being like, I don't want to be like that at all. Like, I don't, as you were asking about like therapy and stuff like that, I was like, I want to go to therapy. I want to do the work. That way my view on our relationship isn't nothing but pain and toxic and hateful. Because I know, like, even though, like I said, we're friends, and we when we split, it was pretty peaceful. Like, it still hurt. Like, there was still pain, because you get married to this person and you think you're going to be with them for the rest of your life. And so when that doesn't work out, there's still going to be emotions to work through. But I was like, I'm going to do the work so that way I'm not bitter like some of these people that I'm talking to, because I know that I'm going to have to work with this person for the rest of our lives to raise our daughters. And I want to do it for the best of them, but also just for myself, because I don't want to walk around always angry and bitter and always bad mouthing another person. Because that just, to me, I was like, that just sounds exhausting. That just sounds just I just don't want to even mentally go there all the time. So, but anyways, I think it helps because there's times where, so for example, last week my daughters had picture day at school.
Yeah.
But it was a time that they were with me on my week. But I I'm not very good at like doing their hair or getting the nice clothes set up, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh gosh, if they go to picture day, how I send them, they're not gonna look as great because I don't know how to do all that stuff. So I called their mom and I was like, hey, so they have picture day next week at school. Would you mind please like helping me, because we want them to look good for picture day. And so she's like, yeah, I'll come get them early in the morning. I'll take them to my house. And then she did their hair. And so I just love that we have that type of relationship, or vice versa. Like if she like calls me and say, hey, I'm stuck at work, can you go pick up the girls from gymnastics? Like it's not a whole debate, it's not a whole like, well, you're supposed to be there and blah blah blah. It's just like, yeah, cool, I got them. And so as the girls grow up and they have questions, I think they're just naturally going to have questions because they see a mom and dad. But I think their questions don't come from a place of feeling lost or feeling less than as people living in two-parent house, because they do see their mom and dad working together in such a good way that they just like, oh yeah, this is cool, not a big deal.
Oh, actually, I'm wondering, because it sounds like you both have the sufficient responsibility and awareness. But for some family, they are suffering a broken relationship.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, based your observation, your audience, what's the most the points when they raise a child or when they're co-parenting with their child.
Yeah, so I think my big observation that I see from that is, it's kind of sad, but I do see a lot of like brokenness between the co-parents in a lot of these situations. I see just a lot of people. Ultimately, what I think it goes back to, I think that people just don't do the work for themselves to work through some of those feelings, whether it be heartbreak or whether it be sadness or whether it be anger. Sometimes it is just legit anger. They don't do the work to process those emotions, or even go to therapy and work through those emotions, or sit down with the other person and have those real conversations. They just keep that bottled up, and so there's always this tension and these fights. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that at the end of the day, that we're supposed to be working together as a team to do what's best for the kids. At the end of the day, we have to work together to give these kids the best life. And so instead of worrying about like, well, I'm going to get you back for this, or you said this about me, so I'm going to say this about you, and all this drama, I think it should always go back to the kids. But I think that can be kind of hard because it really does take work to get to that point, and to work through those emotions, and to set boundaries, and to do all of those different things that's required for it. So that's why I think that it's sad to say, but there's a lot of people in that situation who don't work together so well because they're just not really thinking about what's best for their kids. They're reacting. There you go. Instead of healthily responding to situations, they're reacting based on some unhealed emotions that they haven't truly worked through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
So how to raise their awareness? Do you think it is the best way to add their awareness for the co-parenting, to think about your child's feeling?
Yeah, I think getting help and realizing that you need help is huge. Whether it is like going to therapy if you can afford it or have the insurance for it, or just finding somebody you truly trust to be like, hey, I need to like have a safe place, have a safe person to express some of these things and to work through them. Because if I keep them all to myself and I don't work through these things, then I'm just not, it's not going to be good at the end of the day for my kids. But I will preference that sometimes there are parents in situations where the other parent is like, I'll just say like dangerous or abusive, or somebody you really just can't work with. Maybe even legally, there's legal reasons why you have to create that separation. And I think that's understandable, and you have to do what you have to do in those cases to protect your kids and to protect yourself. But I think if it's just a situation where you have two people who maybe used to be together, it didn't work out, but there's still feelings and emotions that need to be worked out, I would just really encourage people just to go and to seek help. Again, even if you can't afford a therapist, like go find somebody you can talk to, go find a support group, listen to a podcast that people who are kind of in the same situation, and don't just keep that all to yourself. Because I know, I always say this is another tough part about being a single parent, kind of going back to the first question, is that when it is all just you and you have to do everything, you sometimes want to get this like superhero mentality of like, well, I'm just going to be the strong mom, or I'm just going to be the strong dad, and I'll figure it out, and everything's just on me and on my shoulders, and blah, 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 blah. And we sometimes forget that it is okay to be emotional and vulnerable, or to even cry, and to like, that doesn't make you less of a strong mom. That doesn't make you a weak dad. You're still doing what you need for your kid, but sometimes we get this pride about ourselves as single parents that I think we need to sometimes set aside in order to truly be healthy.
So is it the reason you start your podcast?
Yeah, so I started my podcast because one day I just went online and I was like kind of doing what I just said. Like, I want to find other people who can relate to me. I want to hear from other people who I can relate to, because I'm a single dad just doing this thing. I'd like to hear from other single parents. But what I found as I was like searching single parents and scrolling through the content, that a lot of it was just like down and sad music and people crying and all these things, or people saying like, oh, you'll find somebody one day, just stay strong and your situation will change because you'll get remarried and all this stuff. And I was just like, you know what, like I think yes, I understand why people, it's hard being a single parent, so I understand the tears, I understand the frustration, but at the end of the day, there's some really good things to stay positive about and to celebrate and to be encouraged about. And it's not always doom and gloom being a single parent. Like, there's a lot of cool things, because you do at the end of the day get to go to bed with a lot of strength and stuff to take pride in, being like, hey, you know what, like I did it today. Like, I got my kids to school, I got them fed, I paid the bills, and I have a roof over my head. I did all that. That's something to be happy and encouraged about. Or there's just people who are thriving as single parents. There's some people who choose to be single parents. They just do adoption or something like that, and they're thriving. There's just a lot of, so basically I just realized is I was like, you know what? I think there's just real need out there to create something for single parents that really just celebrates them and encourages them. And yes, we talk about the hard times, and we talk about how difficult and exhausting it can be. Like, we talk about the realities, like we don't sugarcoat it. But at the end of the day, I was like, I want to create a space where single parents can come and feel like they're not less than for being a single parent. Like, they don't need to feel like, oh man, I just need to, again, survive until I get remarried or until this happens. Like, I can have confidence in myself for who I am right now. And so I was like, I don't see that happening a lot. So I was like, I'm just going to do it myself. And then I created the podcast.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. We should celebrate. It's a new start for
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm all about celebrating people and celebrating single parents. A lot of people will sometimes get at me because they'll be like, oh, well, you're like glorifying being a single parent and like talking bad about traditional two-parent households. And I just say, like, I'm not doing that. I'm just saying that the reality is, whether you want to pretend like it's happening or not, the reality is that there's people who are single parents through divorce, or maybe their spouse passes away, or maybe they just choose to be a single parent. The reality is that there are single parents out there. So we have to acknowledge that, and then we also just need to also provide ways to encourage them in their time of life, whether they're single parent forever, whether they're only a single parent for a few months and maybe they do get remarried or something like that. But at the end of the day, we just can't pretend like there's not single parents out there and not engage with them at all. So that's what I just chose to do.
I think it's really great to like by listening to your podcast. I also get some like information and suggestion from other people you invite to your podcast. Yeah, by listen to their experience, I also can get the suggestion from other people's life.
Yeah.
How can I do if I single parents? That's really great.
Yeah, I try to have as many voices on there as I can, because so like right now I'm in a big like phase of the show where I'm inviting like entrepreneurs onto the show, because like I mentioned a couple times, like my big thing right now is like, don't just survive but thrive.
Yeah.
So like I want to encourage single parents to say like, hey, maybe financially, as we talked about a couple of times, it is rough because you're just making ends meet and you're always working and doing this. So like, what does it look like to maybe encourage single parents to take a leap into starting a business or doing something entrepreneurial, like getting a license in real estate or something like that. So that way you set yourself up to where you're not just chasing the paycheck every week, but you're building something for yourself that could be financially great, but also something that you have ownership over, that you can kind of be your own boss. So then if you do need to take some time to go watch your kid's baseball game, you being your own boss, you being your own business owner, you don't have to feel guilty about the fact that, oh man, if I do this, then I don't get paid my hourly wage at my job. But you can say like, no, I'm my own boss. I run my own business. And so I'm going to just in my schedule, make sure I'm at my kid's baseball game. And so I bring in a lot of people on to help who are already single parents, who are business owners, or who have that type of mindset, to help encourage them. But overall, yeah, I just think it's important to share people's stories and get their perspectives, because I think that does a couple things. It helps you like learn about the different perspectives out there. But it also, for me, what it hell does is it reminds me that I'm not alone in this situation, because it can be very easy, because oftentimes we are the only adult in the house and we're scrolling on social media and comparing ourselves to all the happy people we see online. We think that, oh, well, it's just me who's struggling in this way, or who's exhausted, or who financially can't pay the bills sometimes, or who gets stressed out after their kids. And so when you have other people come on who are like, oh yeah, I know what that's like, or I struggle with this too, and it's like, oh, that's cool. I'm not the only one who who deals with that, or thinks through that, or has to figure that out. And so it just reminds you, yeah, you're not alone out there.
That's really, really great.
Yeah,
and really helpful. Yeah, that's really great. Wow. Okay, so is that okay to like we move on to our like early concept of our idea? We really want to hear your like thoughts and your suggestion from our idea.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys have going on.
Okay, so we are working on our early concept. It's called Nest Co-Living. It's a co-living model where single parents and university students share housing. The idea is that students pay affordable rent and in return offer light support like school pickups, tutoring, or helping with errands. And we hope it can ease pressure on single parents, that they can have more time to focus on jobs and give themselves a rest. And we want to create a more like supportive community. So it's still really early, so we would like to like know your idea about this concept. your thoughts about these concepts, because a lot of people like you in UK, I mean, a lot of single parents, they most of most of them are single mom, and most of them are doing part-time job because they don't really have time to like balance the work and parenting. So we have this idea is basically want to tackle their lack of time issue, because if there's a student, maybe they can like provide some light support to like pick up cakes and do some grocery shopping, also accompany with their kids, and it's kind of like a win-win
Mm-hmm.
circle. Like students can like co-living with single parents and take care for their children, and then parents maybe they will have more time to like focus on job and doing, and also have give themselves a more rest or something like that. Just want to know your thoughts about this idea.
I think this is amazing. I think this is great. This is really cool. Ultimately, because
Really?
because I guess it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like this, as single parents, we have this tension of like, if I choose to go do this, then I'm sacrificing this over here. So we're always
Yeah, yeah.
struggling with like, what do I decide? Because if I say yes to one thing, I'm saying no to something else. So to have something set up to help single parents and college, university students to say like, hey, like let's work together to kind of take some of that stress
Yeah.
off, I think would be huge. Because I often say like, man, if I had like one superpower or something like that, it would be to like make multiple copies of me, so that way I could go do 3 or 4 things at the same time. Because you're always just feeling that tension.
Yeah.
So it seems like in a practical way, like you said, a win-win. You figured out a way to like help solve that problem for single moms and or single dads or anybody in a healthy way. So I think this is genius. I think this is great.
Really? Do you think is there any like concern you might have if you like live
Uh
with a student?
no, I think like I said, I think your idea is it's gonna help a lot. And I think like you said, it's a win-win for both sides. So I don't think that I think it's just great. Yeah, I'm excited. Like I want to I want to stay in the loop about this. I want to see how this continues to grow and evolve because I think this is great.
Thank you so much, because we are still like developing this idea,
Yeah.
and there's still a lot of we have to do. But yeah, we just want to know your
No,
thoughts.
I think it's just is amazing. And man, if you develop this and you make it something legit, I hope you bring it over to here because I could definitely use that in my life. That's for sure.
Wow, that's amazing.
But if
But
you have any questions as you're developing it, like please keep me in the loop, or I would just love to keep seeing how you continue to develop it and how it goes forward in the future because I can't say enough good things about this idea.
Sure.
I'm curious, are there many social housing in US or is it very easy to apply for social housing for single parent families?
There's just not a lot in general in the U.S. No. There's like
Oh,
low income housing, but there's not social housing is just not really even really a thing here. So this is why maybe even for me as an American listening to this idea, sounds great because we're just so, I guess, individualized here in the U.S. to, like I said, we just often think that we have to only do it ourselves and figure it out ourselves. So this idea of social living or working together as a community, I think, just gets lost a lot here. Not even just for single parents. I just think in America in general, we have a lot of independent mindset realities happening here. So no, man, this is really really cool.
okay.
So I'm wondering if there have the character that can help you. Do you think the student we should think about more, or on who else do you think it could be help you except the childcare?
Yeah, I think just the student who I guess my into that would be the student who has obviously like a lot of patience because it's a lot of patience that's involved being around people with kids and things of that nature. But just a compassionate heart, really, because I think going back to the pride aspect of being a single parent and the guilt aspect of being a single parent, it could be tough for us to let people in to even help us sometimes because of the pride and the guilt. And so to have somebody who we can truly trust and who has the compassion to say like, no, 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 I think you're great, you're a great mom, you're a great dad, I think you're doing this wonderful, but like I definitely want to be somebody who just helps and adds value to your life and helps kind of ease some of that pride and that guilt that we often use as walls that sometimes keep people out from helping us when we really do need the help. So I would just say for the students who might be brought in for this, just helping them remember that it can be just stuff within us that makes us have up these walls a little bit. So just maybe be a little extra understanding and patient and compassionate, but just realized we definitely need the help. So even though we might not act like we need the help, we do need it.
Yeah, because we are think about the trust mechanism issues. So maybe for the single parents, which part you're worry about more, like the professional or the ability or the trust something.
Yeah, I think the stuff that I think I looking at the top part of that picture where it says like pick up kids, buy groceries, just stuff like that. Like that type of stuff that's the stuff I think, just I guess speaking for myself, would be a game changer because as I just keep saying, like when it's just you only have so many hours in the day, and your time is just so precious because you do have to figure everything out. So even just to have somebody who's like, hey, let me just take this one thing off your plate or help you with these couple of things that might not seem like a big deal, it really adds up to being a big deal, because then what you could do, not knowing that you don't have to go do all that other stuff, you're able to just get your job done, you're able just to finish working, and then when you're able to have extra time, you can focus on your kids versus like, oh great, now I have to go buy groceries or I have to pick up a kid from school or do all these other little things. So it's those little things that I'm looking at that seem like they're not that big of a deal, but it definitely adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason why we choose student is like student is not really a complicated role, and they more have like flexible time, so they can do something like pick up kids and like buy grocery, and those stuff is not really like hard. It's like not need like ID skill or something. So we are thinking maybe we can like tackle parents daily lives, like something that student can do, and to like ease the parents' pressure. I think they will be great to them and to you.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just remember being like a student, because you have as a student, you have the energy, you have the time and stuff like that, but as a parent, those are things you're kind of lacking. You don't have the time or sometimes the energy. So, but like you said, it's like a win-win for both, because the student still gets value and housing out of it, and then the parent gets that support that they need. And so, and I think ultimately it's good for the student, because if the student goes on to have kids themselves one day, or maybe even finds themselves being a single parent one day, like they'll gain a lot of like good life skills just being around somebody like that I think they'll learn from and take away from. So like you said, it's a good win-win for everybody, in my opinion.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, thank you so much for share so much thoughts and suggestion for us. Yeah.
I have a final question.
Okay.
Is there anything you think you could do better if you can restart the whole single parenting?
Yes, I think it all goes back to my sense of guilt and my sense of thinking that like I'm not like enough or doing enough for my kids, and I stress out about that. Because if I could go back and do it all again, I think I would slow down and not worry about having all the money to spend on all the things and to be able to keep up with people I see on the internet, I would slow down and just spend time with my girls, because now that they're 8 and 9 years old, I look at them and I'll compare them to pictures that I see like on the wall where they're like little babies and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't even really remember when they were like that. Like it's just all blurs together,
Yeah.
or it just goes by so quick. So if I could restart, and maybe this is what I say to anybody, single parent or parent in general, like if I could restart, I would go back and just slow down and take in all those memories and know that at the end of the day, the stuff that you're not going to remember, they're not going to remember, and you're not going to remember. It's not how much money you spent. It's not how
Yeah.
much stuff that you put on the internet, how all this work. What you're going to remember is just the small stuff. So I'm trying to learn that now, because my kids are still young. They still have a ways to go living with me before they're adults.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to actually put that into some pretty good practice right now. So it's still work, though. It's still work. I'm not perfect at it, but it's work in progress.
I believe that when your daughter get older and she will understand you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I hope so. That's
She will follow.
the goal. I hope so. So that's what I'm working towards. So as you guys have been putting this together and thinking through this, like you said, you were all raised in single parent households, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess like
Yeah.
this is interesting for me, because I wasn't raised in a single parent household. My parents are still together. So for you being on the other side, being raised by single parents, is there any like aspect of your experience that really stood out, or any advice that you would give single parents as kids of single parents?
Actually, when I was a kid, and I really understand how busy my mom.
Yeah.
So actually, I try don't ask her to do anything for me, because I knew she's very busy, and she pay a lot of effort for our life. So I could say maybe I can say I'm very mature when I was a kid
Okay.
compared to other child.
Hmm.
And yeah, when you grow up, you can understand it is a very it is a very valuable experience for every children come from single parent families.
Yep.
Yeah, so I just want to let you know, don't feel guilty, don't feel
Okay.
so guilt in your can understand you. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Thank
just
you.
don't worry.
No, that means a lot. That means a lot. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
For
Yeah.
me, like my dad and my mom is separated.
Okay.
They're not really divorced, but it's been a while to see my dad, to be honest, because my dad not really like come to see us.
Okay.
My mom was the one like who take care of us majorly, but this one thing I would say is that my mom, when I was young, my mom kept telling me like how bad is my dad, like my dad is a bad person and something, because they don't really have a good relationship. They are like fighting.
Yep.
So at the time, I keep hearing to my mom to that, oh, my dad's really bad, and man is all terrible and horrible. So when I was young, I just hate men because my mom. I just hate men a lot, and
Yeah.
at the time, I really don't like my dad.
Okay.
No, I don't even know what happened between them. So I was thinking, but when I grow up, I getting know what they happened between them. I was thinking, there's no one fault. I mean, it's not anyone's fault to like they are not really work out.
Yep.
So I was thinking, I can get more, I don't know, to perspective from dad and mom. It would be great to like not hate men when I was young.
Yeah.
But now I'm all right. Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I will say it's good to like keep off side, of their opinion, or listen to more people, not only from my mom. I mean, I still like love my mom, but there's time that I really hate my dad.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good to remember. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, for my story, is my parents got divorced when I'm very young, maybe 5 years old. So in that time, I don't understand I don't understand them, and actually I don't know why they are divorced. So many people in a very happily family. So in that time, I very even them, appreciate them.
Yeah.
But I want to tell some people who live in single parent environment to you need to have the enough time to communicate with your parents.
Yep.
That's very important to understand their story and why they are choose divorce. Maybe it's better to your get a better life. So I think communicate is very important. Whatever you're living the single parents, your dad with your mom, but it's both okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think single parents family is not like broken. Is completely fine. I mean, we all grow out as like good adults, right?
Yeah,
We all grow
exactly.
out like we still have our opinion and we still think for our family. And yeah, so I would say single parents environment is not wrong or incomplete. It's totally fine. Yeah, we're still fine.
I agree. I agree. Well, that's
Yeah,
good.
maybe.
That's good. Yeah, I agree. I couldn't
Yeah,
agree
maybe.
more. Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking into that. It's really good to, like I said, hear from the other side of it. Because, like I said, I only know it from the perspective of being a single dad. So to hear from the other side of it, it's encouraging because I hope my daughters grow up and can be as well rounded and wonderful as you are. So that's my goal.
Yeah, we will be there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's what I'm crossing my fingers for. So yeah, what did you think? That was I thought that was a great conversation with my new friends. Again, thank you so much to Rachel, Dori, and Liliam. It was fantastic being able just to sit down with you for that hour. I can't wait to see how your idea continues to blossom and grow. And I'm excited for it. And I would really hope that we over here in America can get something like that going because it's just like we said in the interview. It seems like a big win-win. So can't wait to see the progress you all make. If you guys need to get a hold of me and maybe you want to chat, you want to share some of your ideas, you have some questions, just do what the gals did. Reach out to me through my email. That's the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. That's the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. All right, everybody. Well, that's going to get ready to do it for this episode of the SPP. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, my name's Anthony, and you all out there, just stay beautiful. Bye.